In our short time with the A7s Mark III, we chose to prioritise some good old-fashioned camera tests rather than going out actually filming with it. Lots of people, most of them far more talented camera operators than I am, have created some incredible work with the camera. So with only a short little window to use the camera for, we decided instead to do a bunch of technical comparison tests in order to compare it to other cameras and to answer a few of the remaining questions that we had about the camera. So there's a bunch of videos coming, stay tuned for those. But to start with, I wanted to look at the sharpness and image quality across the codecs in this camera. We put out a video discussing the data rates in each codec, XAVC-S and the two new ones, XAVC-SI and XAVC-HS. And the most common question that we've had in response is, sure, those are the numbers, but what does each codec actually look like? Which one is the best quality? Which one should I use? And that's obviously a very complex question to answer, but my normal starting point for that is just to simply film the same clip in each mode. Something nice and wide with lots of fine detail and some good gradients, like this bookcase here in our showroom. So this is XAVC-S, this is XAVC-SI, and this is XAVC-HS. As you can see, there certainly isn't a huge difference in sharpness between any of these modes. In fact, even when looking at them side by side like here, or even cropped in to 400%, to be honest, I can't see a difference. Which might be a boring result, but it's a really good thing. I mean, it means you can choose the codec that works best for your workflow, rather than choosing between them based on quality. This test isn't perfect though. There's no motion in it for a start, which is a really important point for video compression, especially when comparing long op and all-I codecs like we are here with XAVC-S and XAVC-SI. So this is very much only part of the picture, but what it does mean is that you don't need to be concerned about your image quality if you want to swap over to a mode like XAVC-S to save on file size. Now the next step with a side-by-side like this is to see how the codecs hold up in post-production, and the easiest way to do this is to try and break the codecs by massively increasing the contrast and saturation to see how they hold up. Interestingly here, the long op option XAVC-S is actually doing the best. It has the smallest blocks of compression noise in the areas with smooth gradients, like on the dark wall on the left here, and this plant pot. Now this is almost certainly because of the nature of long op. Those areas are actually less compressed because they aren't moving, and so therefore can spread the information over several frames, which is how long op works. If this was a moving shot with a lot more detail that's changing over time, then XAVC-S would probably be coming off worse here in this test. But even so, these three codecs really hold up well against each other. There is still very, very little difference. Another area that's quite interesting to test on the A7s Mark III is 8-bit versus 10-bit, because the camera literally lets you choose. Do you want this codec in 8-bit 420 or 10-bit 422? And that's surprisingly rare for a camera to be that simple in letting you choose. Realistically, I think nearly everyone using this camera will be sticking to 10-bit for the most part, but it's still interesting to see if we can see the differences. Now, full screen with a wide shot like this and a simple regular grade, you're never really going to see a difference here, even once we crop in. But if we add our crazy grade again, everything starts to fall apart on the 8-bit. Sure, this is further than you would actually really ever go, but the difference is remarkable. Look at the dark wall again here, and the gradients of the shadow on the bookcase. On the 10-bit they look smooth, and on the 8-bit there's just so much blocky banding and horrible large blocks of compression. This is one of the clearest examples of the benefits of 10-bit that I've actually ever been able to really show in a YouTube video. The next question we had was, once you started upping the frame rate, does the picture quality drop? I mean, we're so used now to having a drop from 4K to 1080p when going up to higher frame rates. Slow motion and a softer image just seem to go hand in hand nowadays. But now we're seeing cameras which don't have to drop the resolution to go up to high frame rates like 100 frames a second. So let's take a look at how the A7s Mark III behaves once you raise this frame rate up. This is 50p on the top and 25p on the bottom, cropped in to 300%. And again, there's barely any difference. Raise that to 100 frames a second on the top and 25 frames a second on the bottom, and now we're seeing a slightly softer image on the 100p. It's darker because the shutter speed has had to go up slightly because of the higher frame rate, so that could be playing a bit of tricks with the mind, but I think it does look slightly softer as well. But it really won't make much of a difference at all out there in the real world. This is very sharp and detailed slow motion footage at the end of the day. So this next split screen is between 100 frames a second recorded in real time and the 100 frames a second in the slow and quick mode, which gives you slow motion files ready to go in camera. On the older Sony cameras, the slow and quick mode was often significantly softer than recording it as 100p and then slowing that down in post. But here it seems like they're pretty much the same, both in XAVC-S and in All-I as well. So it's a bit strange to do a technical comparison video like this where they all just look the same. It sort of feels like I've got nothing to talk about, but that's actually a really good thing. It's looking like with the A7s Mark III, you can go to whatever you want, go into whatever frame rate and codec you want to for the job that you're in, and still get the same fantastic image quality, which is pretty impressive. And although it doesn't make for a particularly riveting camera test, it does make for a pretty good camera. Let us know what you think of these tests in the comment section down below, and there are lots more to come. We've filmed them all now in just one big chunk, but they take a long time to go through and pick apart, so there'll be lots more videos just like this one coming over the next month or so. But in the meantime, if you want to join the pre-order list for the A7s Mark III, then of course, just head over to proav.co.uk. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.